Hello, everyone. Thank you for checking out this episode of Really Dicey. I'm here with Stephen Keel, the creator of Star Wars 5e. Thank you, sir, for taking the time to talk to us. I'm a big fan of the Star Wars RPG. I first became acquainted with it with West End Star Wars. And when I heard about this, I was really intrigued, and I wanted to ask you questions about it because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there that enjoy 5e and then enjoys Star Wars, but maybe are not. They want to try something different besides the West End or the
Fantasy Play.
yes games. So yes, tell us about this. What have you made exactly?
So Star Wars 5e is just an adaptation of the D&D 5th edition experience. So it's all those core mechanics, but it's just adapted for a Star Wars campaign. So it's the same rules, advantage, disadvantage, D20, ability scores, all that's the same. The only difference is the classes, races, and backgrounds are all Star Wars. And then casting is adapted for Star Wars too. It's pretty comprehensive. There's a full player handbook. There's a book called Starships of the Galaxy, which is for the Starships portion of Star Wars campaign. The Scum and Villainy, which is the monster manual. Wretched Hives, which covers factions and exploring cities.
What inspired you to make Star Wars for the 5e system?
So I played a little bit of 3.5 before getting into 5th edition. I actually DM'd Lost Minds of Phandelver for a group of friends. And when we finished that up, we wanted to try something different. So I said, well, let's try a Star Wars game and I'll write something up. And I did, and it was terrible. I wrote this really bad basic conversion. We played it, had a lot of fun. And then I kind of put it on a shelf and forgot about it until about 3 years ago when I started writing it again in earnest. And then I released it to the public June of 2017, almost 3 years now.
Oh, okay. Now, this is not like you made wizards for Star Wars Universe or paladins for Star Wars Universe. You've taken the classes that were there and just fixed them up so that they can exist in Star Wars. Can you tell us a little about that? Some of the conversions and changes that you've made?
Sure, yeah. So some of the classes were appropriate. Pretty much a one-to-one port. Fighter makes perfect sense for a Star Wars universe. Barbarian makes perfect sense for a Star Wars universe. Wizards, sorcerers, clerics, less so. So what I did is that there are 10 classes. Berserker is Barbarian. Consular, which is the full caster for Force users, is kind of an adaptation of Sorcerer and Wizard together. Engineer is the full caster for Tech, and Engineer kind of merges Bard and Warlock a bit. Fighter is more or less Fighter. Guardian is adapted from Paladin, and that's like the half-caster, more melee-oriented Force-using class. Monk is Monk. Operative is Rogue. And let's see, Scholar is a new class that's int-based. That's like a jack-of-all-trades type of deal, like a no-casting Bard, essentially. And then Scout is adapted from Ranger. And then finally, Sentinel is a completely new class that is a 3/4 caster. So it falls in between Consular and Guardian to kind of blend the use of Force and melee better.
Oh, okay. And species, how wide is that for? I mean, Star Wars and stuff has what, thousands of species?
Right. There's effectively a limitless number of species. Right now, I think we have like 120, give or take. 30 in the player handbook, but yeah, there are a lot, and it's effectively limitless.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the Force, I've seen some systems try to do their best to incorporate that into a gaming system. How do you translate that to 5e exactly?
So I kept the traditional spellcasting concept from 5e. The majority of spells have been ported. What I did is spellcasting got broken in half. So there is Force casting, which is casting the Force using Force spells, Force powers. And then there's Tech casting, which is casting with Tech. And the big difference between Force casting and Tech casting is that Force casting regenerates on a long rest and Tech casting regenerates on a short rest. Well, short or long rest, so more like a Warlock. There are no more slots in the sense that you're not limited by slots anymore. You still have a maximum level you can cast at, but instead you have points. It's adapted from the DMG spell point variant, in fact. But the numbers are simplified because it's just cleaner. So both sides use, both Force casting and Tech casting uses Force points and Tech points to cast Force powers and Tech powers. And then Tech casters get fewer points because they regenerate on a short rest.
Okay, and so there's four books: Player's Handbook, Scum and Villainy, Starships of the Galaxy, and Wretched Hives. Do you need anything more outside of that to play?
No, you don't. And the whole idea is you need the player handbook. Period. If you're not playing with the player handbook, you got something going on. Scum and Villainy is probably the second most important book because that's where the monsters are to fight in a Star Wars campaign. Starships of the Galaxy is completely optional. If you don't care about owning your own starship, you don't care about engaging in starship combat, you don't need it because you can just rent ships to travel from one planet to another. You don't need starships at all. Wretched Hives, same idea. Wretched Hives introduces factions, which are not necessary at all for a normal 5e for a normal game. It introduces enhanced items, which are just magic items, but they're a lot more expanded. There's a lot more new kinds. Specifically, one of the ones I'm most fond of is the modifiable items rule set, which is enhanced items, but they're broken down into slots so you can mix and match. And then it introduces downtime. It puts a lot of emphasis on downtime activities, which again, not necessary at all.
Okay, so as we know that The Mandalorian has kind of re-energized the fandom a bit. Well, if I wanted to make characters out of that, being that's a very new series, can I do so with this system?
Yep, I mean, you can definitely realize it's never going to be perfect because these are heroes in a show and they have plot armor and they can just do everything. So that will never really happen because it is an RPG, so it's governed by rules. But the goal is that you can realize basically any character in Star Wars using a race or a species, a class, and a background.
Oh, okay. And now, just so any lawyer out there is picking up their phone right now, this is totally free. This is
Yep.
something that you've made available that people can download for free and use at their whim. Am I correct?
Yep, exactly right. All the books are free. There's a website. The website is free. You don't pay for anything.
Okay. And one more question about species, droids. How do you incorporate that into the books, into
Uh,
the game system?
yeah, so there are 5 classes of droid, 1 through 5. So there are 5 species for that. They're all in the player handbook. The big material difference with droids is your type. When you play any species except for droid, your type is humanoid. And that's just kind of the same thing with Dungeons and Dragons. That's just the way it is to make it simplified. With droid, you're no longer a humanoid, you're a droid. And what happens is a lot of powers that would affect humanoids don't affect you. Like most healing powers won't affect a droid. Consequently, there are powers that only affect droids to balance that.
Oh,
Additionally, all droids are naturally vulnerable to ion damage. Ion damage, any source of ion damage does a little bit less than it normally would because droids are vulnerable, so they're going to double it, and then it just doesn't have to affect, humanoids and whatnot. And then they have disadvantage on saving throws against lightning and ion damage, and then there are a few other minor traits, but otherwise, playing a droid is generally the same.
okay. A question about conversions. There may be people watching this that are excited about this, but they also have like either the old West End books or the old, well, not old, sorry, the new Fantasy Flight books. But is it possible to incorporate those into this system?
Generally, no. This is 5th edition Bones into Star Wars. It's not any of the other systems ported to 5e. So you can use those books to get inspiration, and there are items and stuff that might exist in those books that don't exist in Star Wars 5e yet. And you could use those items. You'd have to adapt numbers and stuff like that, but generally the mechanics and stuff don't mesh.
Okay. So if I may ask, what has been some of your favorite characters that you made with this system?
I'm a forever DM, so I have not played. I played one shot, and then I played a little bit back, a little over 2 years ago, but that's it. So my namesake Galiphile is a perfect Chiss gambler scholar. So I played him in the one shot in December, and that was a lot of fun. But I generally don't build characters. I actually like to write the mechanics.
So anyone that wants to know more about this, as well as want to support your freelancing, where can they go? What can they do?
So the first place to go is the website. So sw5e.com or starwars5e.com will take you to the same place. So the website has all the content. Most of it is blended into the website, so you can just use that like you would normally any website. You can also download the books if you prefer to have the PDF experience instead. I release content on at least a weekly basis. Typically, there's a release on Thursdays, and then I do content updates on Tuesdays every couple of months. And then when I release stuff, I release on Twitter. There's a Facebook group. There is a subreddit. And then I also have a Patreon. The Patreon funds are exclusively to cover the cost of the website, so I'm not paying $150 a month out of pocket. But yeah, and I release it on all those channels, but again, everything is free. So whatever your preferred medium to digest it.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about this. To our viewers out there, thank you for watching. I hope this has brought you a doorway to something really exciting. I know for me it has. And stay safe out there. Have a good day, and I guess may the force be with you.